The more you let go, the more comes back to you. It sounds like one of those mystical riddles you'd find, scribbled inside a fortune cookie, something you might laugh at and toss aside with your empty plate. And yet, it is one of the oldest truths in nature. We've been told the opposite our whole lives, that if you want something, you have to fight for it, cling to it, protect it with every ounce of your strength. Grip it so tightly it can't escape. But the tighter the grip, the more life wriggles out between your fingers. Stand by a river at dawn and you can see the truth for yourself. The water glides past boulders without resistance, winding toward the sea as if it already knows the way. No rushing, no pushing, no "get out of my way." The current simply moves, and somehow it always gets there. Or look at a tree in autumn. It doesn't cling to its leaves, bargaining with the wind to keep its beauty a little longer. One by one, the golden leaves drift down, surrendered to the air. The tree stands bare for the winter, not as a failure, but as a promise, because spring will come and new leaves will grow. This is the rhythm nature has always known, to hold nothing so tightly that it can't transform into something else. But here's the paradox. While nature flows, we humans fight the current. We clutch at our plans, our relationships, our identities, trying to keep them exactly as they are. We confuse control with safety, and yet, control often becomes the very thing that isolates us, exhausts us, and blinds us to opportunities we never planned for. So here's the question. What happens when you stop gripping so tightly? What doors might open when you loosen your hold, not out of laziness but out of trust? What would it be like to live the way rivers flow and leaves fall, without fear that letting go means losing? The truth is, the moment you open your hands, life has room to give you something better. But you'll never know until you try. Years ago, there was a farmer who had a helper. One morning, the farmer gave what seemed like the simplest task in the world. Sort these potatoes into 3 piles, small, medium, and large. The helper nodded, rolled up his sleeves, and got to work. At first, it was almost fun. The first few potatoes were obvious. This one's small, that one's big. But by the 3rd hour, the task stopped feeling so simple. He would pick one up and hesitate. Is this medium? Or is it just a small one pretending to be big? He started second-guessing himself, comparing each potato to the last, worrying that the farmer might come back and say, "No, you got it wrong." By sundown, the helper quit, not because the job was hard, not because the potatoes were heavy, but because the endless little decisions, the constant weighing and re-weighing, had drained him. He realized he wasn't moving forward. He was just circling the same pile over and over. We live like that helper more often than we care to admit. We overanalyze every choice, trying to control every outcome. We scroll endlessly through options. Which job is best? Which words to say? Which relationship to keep? Which one to end? Until the joy of living gets buried under the fear of making the wrong move. And here's the quiet tragedy. While we're busy sorting our potatoes, life is still happening around us. Opportunities are passing by. Friendships are drifting away. Moments of beauty are arriving and leaving without us ever noticing, because we're too busy staring at the one thing in our hands, afraid to let it go. The farmer in the story didn't care if every potato was sorted perfectly. He just needed them in piles so dinner could be made. In the same way, life rarely demands that we get it exactly right. More often, it's asking us to move, to participate, to be present, even if it's messy, even if we're unsure. The helper thought control would keep him from making mistakes, but it only kept him from living. The helper's exhaustion wasn't from lifting, bending, or carrying. It was from controlling, from believing that every single potato had to be perfectly placed before he could rest. That's the same silent weight most of us carry every day. We don't burn out because life is too heavy. We burn out because we insist on holding it just so, afraid to let a single piece roll out of line. Overthinking is just control wearing a nicer outfit. We call it being prepared or being responsible, but often it's just fear in disguise. Fear that if we loosen our grip, everything will fall apart. And so we micromanage our relationships, our careers, even our own emotions. We try to dam the river, not realizing that the water will eventually find a way around us or over us. But nature shows us another way. A river doesn't force itself toward the sea. It simply follows the path already there. It curves around mountains, slips past rocks, rests in still pools, then moves again. And yet, it always arrives. A flower doesn't bloom because it pushed harder than the one next to it. It blooms because it opened when the sun reached it. Alan Watts once said, "Nature itself pries your fingers open and shows you the illusion of control." It's a gentle but undeniable truth. The more you try to own every outcome, the more you suffer when reality refuses to obey. Think about the times in your life when something unexpectedly fell into place, not because you planned every detail, but because you were open when the right moment came. Maybe it was meeting someone by accident who became a close friend. Maybe it was losing a job only to find a better one waiting. Those weren't the results of a perfect plan. They were gifts from letting the current carry you where you needed to go. The potato helper could have simply trusted his instincts, made a few mistakes, and finished in an hour. Instead, he turned the job into a prison. That's what control does. It builds walls where none are needed. Letting go doesn't mean doing nothing. It means moving with what's here instead of strangling it into what you think it should be. Because the truth is, the river is already flowing, with or without your permission. There are two ways to live, the path of control and the path of trust. The path of control feels safe. At first, you hold the reins tightly, you make the rules. You believe that if you can just dictate every detail, nothing will go wrong. But control has a cost. It breeds anxiety, because now everything depends on you. It leads to burnout, because you're never allowed to rest. Not really. And worst of all, it isolates you, because people don't feel like partners in your life. They feel like subjects in your little kingdom, and no one loves living under a dictator. It's like running your life as a monarchy. One ruler, one vision, one set of orders. It's efficient until the ruler collapses, or makes a mistake, or simply can't see beyond their own limited perspective. Then the whole system crumbles, because everything was built on one person's control. The path of trust, on the other hand, feels risky. At first, you loosen your grip, you admit you don't know everything, you leave space for others to act. But trust has a strange magic. It invites cooperation. People show up to help because they feel valued, not managed. Life starts offering solutions you never thought of because you're no longer blocking them with your need to be right. Trust is like a thriving forest ecosystem. No single tree dictates where the sunlight goes. No bird tells the wind which branch to land on. Each part plays its role, and somehow the whole thing flourishes. Shared power nourishes all things without dominating anything. When you live with trust, you notice the little coincidences, the friend who calls just when you need advice, the opportunity that appears after a disappointment, the way help arrives from places you never looked. It's not that you stop acting. You still plant seeds, make choices, and take steps. But you don't strangle the process. You plant and you water. Then you let the sun and rain do their part. Control says, I alone must make it happen. Trust says, we'll make it happen together, life included. And here's the twist. The forest, with all its cooperation and unpredictability, is far more resilient than the monarchy. Because when storms come, and they always do, shared roots hold stronger than a single throne. Most people think saying, I don't know, is a weakness. We've been trained to believe that not having the answer means we're unprepared, naive, maybe even incompetent. From school exams to job interviews, the world rewards certainty. But here's the irony. The most alive moments in life are often born from the very thing we're taught to avoid: uncertainty. Think about it. When you already know exactly what's going to happen, there's no surprise, no discovery, no magic. It's like watching a movie when someone already spoiled the ending. You might sit through it, but the thrill is gone. I don't know is the doorway to wonder. It's the space where life can hand you something better than you could have scripted. Alan Watts would often point out that a light cannot shine on itself. A blade cannot cut itself. The eye cannot see itself directly. In the same way, we can't fully grasp the meaning of our own life while we're in it, because we're part of something bigger, something we can't step outside of to control. And yet, that's exactly why I don't know is liberating. It frees you from the exhausting job of playing God in a universe that doesn't need your micromanagement. It lets you move like a dancer who trusts the music, not a soldier marching to a rigid plan. Consider a conversation with someone you love. If you go in knowing exactly what you're going to say, down to the last word, you've already closed the door to what could actually happen between you. But if you walk in thinking, I don't know, surprise me, you've made space for connection, for the other person to bring something unexpected to the table. Life works the same way. What you really want is tied to what others want. And what they want? You don't know. And that's the point. Maybe the job you think you need is just a bridge to a calling you've never imagined. Maybe the relationship you're trying to save is only holding you back from the one that will truly change you. The universe doesn't need you to know everything. It needs you to be open enough to discover. So we return to the paradox we began with. The more you let go, the more comes back to you. By now, it's not just a clever phrase. It's something you can feel in your bones. You've seen it in the river's patience, in the forest's cooperation, in the helper's lesson with the potatoes, and in the strange freedom of I don't know. You've seen how clutching at life squeezes the joy out of it, and how trust allows it to breathe. Letting go is not the same as losing. It's making room. It's clearing the field so something new can grow. It's opening your hands so that life can place something in them. Decay and impermanence, the very things we fear, are not enemies. They are the gardeners of life. The leaf must fall for the bud to grow. The tide must go out for it to return. Even your own seasons of uncertainty are not mistakes. They're part of a larger rhythm that has been flowing long before you arrived. When you understand this, you stop demanding guarantees. You stop trying to freeze moments in time, to hold on to people or situations as if they'll last forever. You begin to trust that endings are simply beginnings wearing a different mask. There is a kind of deep relief in realizing you don't have to push the river. The current already knows the way. All it asks is that you stop standing in the middle, trying to redirect it. So here is the invitation. Let the river carry you. Trust the tide. Notice how it keeps returning, not because you command it, but because that's what it does. What is yours will arrive in its own season. And when it does, you will be ready, not because you controlled every detail, but because you learned the most important skill of all, how to open your hands.